Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we can't believe Sora beat out Q*bert for the Final Smash DLC character. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including Sora coming to Smash, and then on Thursday, Game & Watch Month officially begins. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I cannot believe that Game & Watch Month is upon us.
We're in it.
We've been talking about Game & Watch Month
For so long.
And before we were talking about it on the show, you and I were talking about it in private. And the fact that it's here, it feels like NCS Christmas a little bit.
It does a little bit. We now, mind you, this is not to replace Christmas. We will still celebrate.
No, that's
Christmas
right. We're not
year.
canceling Christmas.
That's right. Mark, I know we're not doing weather anymore, but I just want to point out that it's very windy in Los Angeles right now.
It's
very
very
strange.
windy.
It's very strange. I drove over here to your place. And
Almost blown off the road.
Almost blown off the road. I tell you what, like everyone having a real tough time staying on that road. And you can't see anything. We're in like a dust storm. It's very strange.
Wow. It's like you're like the bad guy in that's driving in the dust storm in Mission Impossible Gross Protocol.
Gross Protocol. That's right. That's the Halloween version of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of Gross Protocol, would you like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces? You certainly can. All you got to do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com and give us a mailing address where we can send you my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. You play it for as long as you want, or you don't play it for as long as you want. You keep it for as long as you want, then you send it back to me. I pay for postage both ways. It's a perfect borrowing program, and part of that perfection is that there may in fact be a copy of Untitled Goose Game in a box that says Sonic Forces. That's just something that happens. It doesn't make it any less perfect. It's not an accident necessarily, but it is something that could happen.
Checking in, Patrick.
Yeah.
Are Sonic Forces and Untitled Goose Game out in the wild right now? Is somebody and some people's enjoying Sonic Forces and Untitled Goose Game?
Well, I can't speak to enjoyment, but neither of the games are in my apartment at present.
Okay.
So they are out in the wild. In the future, I don't appreciate the question wanting to know if like one of those two games is like one of them is out, and I will not specify which one.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm not trying to get fishing.
You can't
for
nail me
hints
down
or anything
here,
like
Mark.
that. Yeah, that's fair. Well, here's another thing you can do. You can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it so much. One of the joys of doing this show, Patrick, is of course getting to hang out with you every week. Another joy is getting to interact with our listeners. And whether that's through emails people send us, whether that's through tweets, or people leaving us 5-star reviews, wherever they get their podcasts. If you leave it in the U.S. Apple podcast store, it's going to be one of those nights.
It's the wind, man. Blame the wind. It's blowing your teeth around.
If you leave it in the U.S. Apple podcast store, we'll see it. And so we'll give you a shout out on the show. But we would love to give you a shout out no matter where you leave your review. So send us an email, hit us up on Twitter, tell us where you left a review, and we'll gladly give you a shout out.
Also, as we mentioned earlier, it is in fact Game & Watch Month, so you have precious little time to get us your Game & Watch memories or your whatever you want to talk about in Game & Watch. We will be fielding those emails sort of throughout the month. So keep them coming. Love what we've gotten so far. Thank you everyone who has already written in Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. Metroid Dread, baby.
Oh my gosh,
it's
yes.
here. We're there. I almost couldn't believe it turning it on that I had a new Metroid game to play.
Yeah. I didn't entirely know what to expect. I was very excited for this.
Yeah.
To the point where like I was expecting to be let down, but I have not been. I did not love Samus Returns.
Right, and that's where we part ways a little bit because I did love Samus Returns. It is a game that I 100%ed. I am not a get everything in the game kind of guy, but I did for Samus Returns.
Yeah, and so I enjoyed it. I thought it was okay. I didn't love like the combat. I don't know. It just didn't like all gel for me that well, and so I was a little bit nervous going into Metroid Dread just because this is like another Mercury Steam developed Metroid game. But I feel like Samus Returns was a really good warm up, if that's what it was, because Metroid Dread is awesome. I don't really have I don't really have anything like negative to say about the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I absolutely agree with you that I sort of love every second of it. While trying to like touch base on like where we are in the game, Mark and I were both having a little bit of a hard time because neither of us really want to spoil any part of the experience for the other. So we're not gonna we're going to speak about the game in sort of the broadest of terms and maybe only discuss things that we've seen in like trailers.
Yeah,
and
I think
stuff
that's fair.
But I also like, I absolutely love it. I think the way that it paces out like power-ups and discovering new areas is very like interesting and innovative for a Metroid game. And maybe this is just my perspective as someone who has played all of them multiple times, but it feels like it's a game made for someone who has played Metroid games before. Like, it feels to me like the game knows that you have expectations going in and either plays into them or subverts them as it deems necessary.
Yeah, I think that if you have played all the Metroid games, that you can enjoy it on that level, but I don't think that like you need to have played the Metroid games in order to appreciate like the pacing and all that kind of stuff. Like,
I agree with that. And generally speaking, I am not the, oh yeah, you got to play all the previous game. No, you have so little time. Just play the new game.
Yeah.
So I will always support that idea.
I'm curious to know, have you been playing it in handheld or on the TV or both?
I have been playing it mostly on the TV.
Okay, how has that been?
Great.
Okay.
Why do you ask?
I'm just curious because I've been playing exclusively in handheld because for whatever reason, like I feel like I need it close to me to like really scrutinize the map and know. I don't know. When I first started, it was my first time connecting like Bluetooth headphones to it, since that has been possible on the Switch, because I really wanted to be like in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I wanted that atmosphere. I wanted all that kind of stuff. And so I think that's why I've started in handheld mode and why I've kind of like stuck in with handheld mode is because I want that feeling of being like immersed in the game. I really, really like the environments.
Yeah, they're amazing
in the game.
Yeah.
I really thought leading into it that I was going to hate the Emmy sections.
Yes.
Because generally I don't really like, like the unstoppable machine that hunts you down kind of thing in games. It's like usually too stressful for me. And the first time you encounter Emmy, it was very stressful.
Right.
Like, and so I like had to take a break afterwards. It was like, okay, I did it, put it down. But getting further into the game, even the Emmy encounters begin to feel like the rest of the game, where it's like, I have leveled up, like I have more. It's not even that you have like power-ups that can
in some ways it's just sort of your understanding.
You're just getting better at the game. It's like
works.
You are leveling up.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting better at the timing for countering Emmy, and I still don't get it every time, but I can like do it enough.
Still don't get it most times.
Yes, completely. And I die a lot in this game.
Me
I die
too.
on boss battles. I die at Emmys. Like I die all the time. But the game is very forgiving.
Yeah, especially where the Emmys are concerned, because it will drop you right back on the other side of the nearest Emmy door. So it is really like they understand that the Emmy rooms are specific, like action puzzle encounters, and if you mess up that puzzle encounter, it doesn't want to punish you by sending you back to a save point or anything. It just makes you want it makes you attempt that action puzzle again.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me a little bit of, like Super Meat Boy or
Totally.
Celeste, where it's like they know that these areas are challenging, and so it like failing is part of it, and they just kind of like you just respawn quickly and you're right back. Yeah. Especially in the Emmy sections, like right back where you were to try again where you failed. So it's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I don't know. I was expecting to really hate those sections, and I still get sweaty palms when it's
me
like
too.
when I'm in them, but it's like a fun kind of stress versus just like hating having to go through them, where I feel like that's a really difficult balance.
Well, and there's also like nothing quite as liberating as once you have cleared an Emmy area to just be like strolling through it later, and you're just like, this is green on my map now. No one can hurt me here. It makes me wish that there was a mode that was just like Emmy room challenges, like a boss rush of just like Emmy encounters.
That sounds miserable to me, but more power to you.
I mean, it sounds like it'd be super fun, especially if they like had it, where you were just like respawning right away and just like tackling it like on its own,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Almost like a boss rush mode.
Yeah.
But with just like Emmy encounters.
Yeah. Or like I was envisioning like remember Metal Gear the VR missions that like after Metal Gear Solid they put out like a series of just like individual missions that you played like in the character in VR, and so it was just like you have to accomplish one thing on this like fake map, and like that was it. If it was just like, okay, here's an Emmy room, and
that'd
like,
be
get
fun.
through it.
It's like NES remix but for Emmy rooms.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I don't really know what else to say about it, because
without
the
getting
experience is so like the joy of the game is the experience of like
agree.
Leveling up and encountering the different areas and everything. I think, and actually now I can't even remember what's in the trailers. I hesitate to say it, so I'll just say the bosses have been fun so far. It's another thing where it's like I die a bunch, but
you learn a little more
I
every
learn
time.
a little more, and I realize like, oh, that was like my fault. Like usually what happens is I go into a boss battle and I like do okay, but then I just get like destroyed because I'm not really paying attention to my health or the patterns.
Right.
And then, but again, you respawn exactly where you need to be. You're in it really quick. They let you skip cutscenes if you want to. And so it's really easy to just like get a little bit better each time. I know this is really overplayed, but it reminded me of playing like Bloodborne. Similar thing where it's like, okay, I'm going to figure out this boss's pattern. I'm going to die a bunch, but then I'll eventually get it.
Yeah. And like knowing that when you run into a room and there's a boss, you're like, okay, that's fine. He's going to kill me this time, right? And you're just like, I'm going to try to hang as best I can. If I can spot any patterns in this first run, like great. Otherwise, I know I'm going to try it a couple more times.
I did see today, there was an article in Kotaku about one of the bosses, how if you sequence break the game, like if you get an item earlier, there's like a special way that you can kill this boss that is only possible if you like did that sequence break to get this particular ability. And I thought I think that's so cool, because it's like, okay, like the developers are encouraging and expecting people to try to like to sequence break and see what happens.
See, I am at a point in the game right now where I've just there was a little like ramp up where I was getting a lot of special abilities like all kind of in a row, and then it was a little bit unclear to me where to go next. I feel like it's the first time where the game really like reflects the world back at you and is like, okay, now go. You've got space to clean up. You've got other places to explore with your new abilities. That like it feels very open to me right now, where there are a lot of times where it feels like the game is kind of funneling you in very specific directions. So to know that there are like areas to even like sequence break before that makes me, I don't know, it seems like the game is like bigger and more probably allows you to do more than you realize as you're like stumbling through it, just trying your best to like get to the next thing.
Yeah, it does seem like a game that rewards replaying.
Yes.
Because after you've done it once, you're like, oh, okay, like I kind of have a sense of it. What you're talking about, Patrick, like where the game funnels you and then has moments where it like opens up and is like, go wherever you want, and then it's going to funnel you again.
Yeah.
To me, that is perfect, because I hate not knowing where I'm supposed to go in games. And one of the things that I did not like about Samus Returns is, even about like Yoku's Island Express, is being like, okay, I kind of know where I need to go, but I cannot remember for the life of me how to get there.
Yeah.
And I find that so frustrating. I have not really found that to be the case in Samus Returns. There are moments where I'm like, I don't 100% know where to go next, but there was but never a moment where I was like, but I don't know where to start.
Right. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Well, and the game has a pretty solid map feature that allows you to, like, it shows you every single kind of like door or destructible block that you've encountered. And if you want to, you can highlight a certain kind of door or block or whatever. So when you get a new power up ability, if you have like tagged those, not even like you don't have to do it consciously, the game does it automatically, that you'll just be able to find them again on the map. I have not yet. Power bombs isn't a. There are power bombs in the game. I do not have them yet, but I have encountered many power bombable spaces, and in fact I even picked up like extra power bombs, but I just don't have the ability to use them yet, which I think is so cool that I picked up an expansion pack for an item I don't have yet. But yeah, so like I have on my map like marked where those power bombable spaces are, and so when I get that ability, I'll be able to hunt them back down and reap the rewards of that.
Yeah, it's I feel like Metroid has the reputation as being like a really specific type of game that can be difficult to get into. But if you've ever been curious about Metroid, I think that Metroid Dread is an amazing starting point.
Yeah.
Because I just think the game is that good at being both like giving you clear direction, but also allowing you to moments of like going wherever you want to go. And not even moments. I think like you could probably spend more time exploring the world in the moments where like what I'm considering like where it's funneling you.
Right.
You probably could the map is always open. So
right. But
you can always
it's
backtrack
so
and stuff,
good
like,
at like player psychology that it's just pointing you in the right direction, and like you can choose to break that if you want.
There definitely are times where like, oops, you fell down a hole and you can't get out until you do this thing. But one of the things that Super Metroid is praised for is it's like atmospheric storytelling.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like show don't tell, and the game does a lot of that. There are discrete moments where they advance the story, but they are very few and far between.
And pretty short, too. The game does a really great job of showing you things that are mysterious and intriguing, and then taking them away from you.
Yeah.
Like the sort of like beat that kicks off the whole like adventure, like Samus lands on this planet and something happens to her, is so intriguing and so like you demand more information about it. And it's just cool to like see the sort of like remnants of the society, whatever was there, and try and like piece it all together. It's super, super cool.
So I think that I'm pretty close to the end of the game.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I still have hours left. Like
Sure.
I'm not like it's not right there, the finish line. But I'm loving this game. I'm enjoying it more than I expected to enjoy it.
Wow.
Like I cannot wait to get back to playing Metroid Dread.
Yeah, no, I'm also very excited to get back to playing it. There were two other things I want to talk about with this game, and I'm only remembering one right now, so that's the one I'll talk about. Very early in the game, during your first Emmy encounter, you get access to a beam called the Omega Beam, which can be used to actually fight the Emmys themselves. But you get it by fighting these like creatures that look like Mother Brain. So you are 100% getting the beam from the end of Super Metroid from fighting like little Mother Brain clones. Like it's so cool to me that like it's paying homage to like some of my favorite things from earlier Metroid games.
And that's one of the few like I guess like mini bosses we'll call it.
Yeah.
Like it repeats through the game, but it is fun when it shows up again because as you're just getting more powerful.
Yeah.
And so the first time, you're like, how do I fight this? It takes a long time, but the more powerful you get, the better you are at defeating it.
Yeah.
Also, I think just like the level designs and the world itself is really, I'm hoping that as the story develops, there's like explanation maybe for what exactly is going on here, because
It's got a real like Dharma Initiative vibe to it, right? Where you're
totally.
like some people were here, they were up to something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like in the background, of just like an area that you're traversing, there will be this big like thing. Maybe it was a boss that you fought earlier. I wasn't paying that close attention. But and there's like robots like working on it, like dissecting it and like
I
poking
assume
it.
that thing's gonna come back later.
Yeah, and you're like, and you're just like, oh, okay, like clearly something is going down here or was going down here, and I'm super intrigued by the whole thing.
There is like an aquarium section which has just like some awesome stuff going on in the background that, again, I don't want to like spoil the experience, but like it's just so rad to see the environment, both like the way that the people who settled there tried to like control it, and in the ways that like they can't because it's just too like wild and alien.
And Samus has so much personality this time, even though she says nothing. I don't think she's uttered a word, but I feel like they did a really good job of making her expressive and making her feel like a character and not just like a suit of armor.
Yeah, totally. And the thing that does speak, and this is sort of cool and not what I had pictured when we met the Adam AI in Metroid Fusion. But so there is like an AI that when you check in with it, it kind of like debriefs you on what you just experienced and offers like some words of advice about like what to do next. And it's all very general. Like it is not a super helpful AI, but it speaks to you in this like garbled, like very robot-y voice. And like it still does that. It still has that affectation of like calling you lady.
Yes, which totally made me think of like Other M.
Yeah, well, and it's an Other M / Metroid Fusion thing, right? Like it's in both of those games. And like hearing a dude say like, "That okay with you, lady?" I'm like, I hate this. But hearing a robot voice like try to emulate the experience she had with a human being, very cool. Also, I got my special edition version of this game with the steelbook, and like it came in a giant box with an art book.
Oh, so nice.
And I was flipping through the art book and looking at concept art from the original Metroid, from the Return of Samus, from Super Metroid, from Fusion, and then a couple pages on Zero Mission and Samus Returns, and then like the latter half of the book is all stuff from this game. And I was like, oh no, I have to close this.
Sure.
I don't want to see these characters before. I don't want to see these monsters before I have to blow them to pieces with my arm cannon. But I love it. It was ridiculous that I spent $30 extra on this thing, but I'm so glad I did. Like it looks so handsome. It's just sitting behind my Switch right now. I'm very happy with it.
Man, I didn't get a Switch OLED, and maybe I will eventually. I don't really know. But when I was seeing people's experiences with it, and like
because you're playing in the handheld
mode.
in
a handheld mode where I'm like, ooh, this would be such an amazing way to play Metroid Dread. It really, I hope this game is a success because it really feels like Metroid is back in a big way.
Yeah,
and it feels, for me, my experience with Metroid Dread so far is taking everything I loved about like Super Metroid and Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion and bringing it to like another level. Like it truly feels like a modern Metroid game, and then I want another one already. I want more of this.
You're not even done with this one.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah. Me too, but also like there's no point in my life where if you asked me, do you want more Metroid, would I have said no? So almost literally no point in my life. Mark, have you been playing anything else this week?
I have been playing Tetris 99.
Yep, there was a Tetris Maximus this week.
Yeah, Monster Hunter Rise.
How'd you feel about that theme?
I have not played any Monster Hunter really outside of like a few demos, and so the specifics, like the emblems that are on the different Tetris pieces, like all that kind of stuff, were lost on me. But I really liked the music. It felt like very epic.
Yes.
Which was a fun way to play Tetris 99.
And it was epic in the like walking through Middle Earth themes of Lord of the Rings, where it's not like an action sequence, but it's very regal, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it felt like you were doing something important in playing Tetris.
My highest rank was 11, which I felt really good about.
Hey, all right.
Yeah.
Nicely done. I did get a first place, and this was another weekend where Sarah got into it as well. So I believe she also scored a first place in there at some point too. So I hope they never stop doing these Tetris Maximus cups. They're the best.
Yeah, I love getting the new themes each
Yeah,
time
yeah.
and seeing what they are. I've also been playing a little bit of Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. So before Metroid Dread came out, or actually like on that Friday, I played a little bit of Skyward Sword before starting Metroid Dread because I wanted to get myself into a place where like I had just finished one task and am now ready to like
You
do
needed
the
you
next
needed to
one.
park it.
I needed to park it exactly and be like in a place where I'd be like, okay, not in the middle of something, but at the beginning of something, so I can then get back into it discreetly.
Smart.
After playing a little bit of Metroid Dread in that first Emmy encounter, I found it so like stressful in a fun way, but that I was like, maybe I need like to play a little bit of Metroid Dread and then set it aside and play like Skyward Sword as a de-stressor.
Sure, okay.
Because that game, like nothing in Skyward Sword, it has been fun, but nothing in there has been particularly challenging.
Right.
In the same way the Metroid Dread has been, but I was too into Metroid Dread to go back. So, but Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword parked for right now, but excited to go get back into it. I'm at the part where I just finished like the first 3 or 4 temples, and like there's like 3 new like things I need to do before I can go on to the next temple or whatever.
Yes.
This is all very vague. I can't remember what the specifics of what they're called are.
So you have not flown into the storm in the sky.
So I flew into the storm in the sky and opened up the thing that was in there, and that's basically, I did like a few tasks outside of that, and now I'm ready to go to like the first like beacon or whatever it is that you're looking for.
So you're gonna revisit each of the 3 areas.
Yeah, I think I landed in like Farron Woods or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where I stopped.
I'm actually not that much further than that right now. So Mark, you are catching up to me. I have not played Skyward Sword this week. I continue to pour time into Game & Watch games. We will obviously talk more about those as we go throughout this month. But yeah, that's what we've been playing. Mark, let's close this out and let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
Today, October 12th, Ori the Collection is released for Switch.
And that's a physical copy of the 2 Ori and the Will-o'-the-Wisps and the Blind Forest.
And also Disco Elysium, the Final Cut, and Gang Beasts is released.
Disco Elysium, one of those games that I always think I should make the time to play, but I probably never will.
No, I feel the same way. When this game first came out, I just remember hearing amazing things about it, and I think if I played it, I would really, really enjoy it. I just don't know when I'm going to get to it. I still haven't played that Ace Attorney game that came out in July that I was like super hyped for. I just haven't had time.
Right.
There's the Castlevania Advance Collection. It's just like there's too much. I just don't know.
Right. I mean, plus we're both like in the middle of Metroid Dread and Skyward Sword.
And I promised I was going to play Dragon Quest XI-S Echoes of Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch.
That's never happening. I'm like 2 hours into Eastward. I don't know if I'm going to go back to that.
It's hard. But yeah, Disco Elysium, what I have taken to doing is putting them on my like wish list.
Yeah.
And so that I can see like, oh, does it drop in price? And sometimes even if I don't buy it when it drops in price, it reminds me that I have it on my wish list. And so that's the function I've been using.
It's fun to be reminded of things.
What is Gang Beasts?
I don't know. I highlighted it on here, but I don't. It's a game name that I've seen a bunch of times. But
Okay, great.
I'm not sure I know what it is.
On Thursday, October 14th, Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero are released on the Switch eShop. I believe this must be like a collection or a bundle.
Yeah,
because
I
I think they are individually already available. Also, just wanted to point out there's a game on the 14th called Red Ronin, and I don't know anything about this game, but when I was scrolling through the new releases, definitely thought that was Red Robin, like a Thai
like a
game
hamburger
with the gourmet,
place.
Yes, hamburger restaurant.
I mean, also out on Thursday is a game called Inspector Waffles, and I'm choosing to believe that that's a dachshund in a Sherlock Holmes hat, but I don't want anyone to prove otherwise.
And then on October 15th, this is Friday, Crisis Remastered Trilogy with Crisis 2, and Crisis 3 Remastered is on the Switch eShop. And then on October 18th, on Monday, Sora comes to Smash.
Sora comes to Smash. That's exciting. I think we'll probably talk about that in greater detail in the news. But yeah, that's happening on Monday. Guess what? I called it wrong last week when I said that Smash will be completed with the Mr. Sakurai Presents. Instead, it was just announced how it would be completed. We'd had to wait a week for the final piece of it there. Okay, those are the new releases. Let's close this out. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or a group of performers did not play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, this last Friday night, you and I went to a screening of No Time to Die. Screening, it makes it sound like it was something special. We went to the AMC at the Americana and saw the new James Bond movie. Let's talk about James Bond.
I really like No Time to Die.
Here's something that we're not going to do. We're not going to spoil No Time to Die at this point.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you just had a second of where you're like, I haven't been able to make it to the movie, I haven't seen it yet. Don't worry, we're not gonna ruin it or anything.
Yeah,
but Mark liked it.
I like James Bond movies in the same way that I like Marvel movies, where it's like, oh, was fun. This was a good time at the movie theater. Will I ever watch it again? Probably not. But
here's the thing. No Time to Die was good enough and fun enough that it sort of made me want to watch all 5 Daniel Craig ones again. Including Spectre, which I know is bad.
I really like No Time to Die. Like, I really had a good time at that movie. And so when I came home, I was making something to eat before going to bed, and I turned on Casino Royale.
Yeah.
And I think it's true that I just don't know that I should revisit these movies because I don't think that Casino Royale aged particularly well. I think it did an amazing job in kicking off like this new era of James Bond, but it feels very much like a movie from the early 2000s to me.
Interesting.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but was not...
wasn't hitting for you
because
in the moment. Yeah.
One of the things I really liked about Skyfall was Roger Deakins' cinematography. Like, that made that movie. And in this movie, I don't know who the cinematographer was, but what I want out of James Bond is, like, really beautiful, stylish action. And, like, No Time to Die gave that to me. Skyfall gave it to me. Casino Royale is not shot like that. Casino Royale is shot kind of, like, flat. Like, it feels very much like a movie from the early 2000s. Not a bad thing, but just like doesn't have the same like sense of style that I want out of a James Bond movie now.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I mean, like you mentioned that like Skyfall is shot beautifully, and like it definitely is, but it doesn't go to as many like exciting exotic locales as No Time to Die. One of just my favorite things in James Bond, like throughout the entire 25 movie franchise, is when they go to exotic cities, strange locations, and just like shoot the city, right? And that's even something like to Spectre's credit, that like opening sequence at like the Day of the Dead march, wherever
Mexico City.
It's Mexico City, yeah. Awesome, right? Because they're like shooting the city as itself, and just like existing in that space is so much fun. And No Time to Die does that like 4 times. And I just love being in those spaces.
Yeah, there's an earlier Bond, and I cannot remember which one it is, but they like a lot of it takes place in Las Vegas, and it is fun because they shoot Las Vegas like it's one of those exotic locales, which it is for the majority of the world. And so it's really fun to see like a city like treated that way, which usually it does not get that sort of like star treatment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I also think that No Time to Die, and again, I'm not going to spoil anything here, does a nice job of just like pulling in ideas and locations from locations, and just sort of like general Bond-isms from across the franchise. Like there are moments that feel very on Her Majesty's Secret Service. There are like little Dr. No references here and there, and like the third act of the movie feels like a third act of like the late Connery movies with like the villain's secret base that's like all decked out and crazy. Again, I'm not spoiling anything here, but it plays into those concepts so well and with so much like fun and realism that like I don't know, it all really worked for me. I really liked No Time to Die.
I had such a fun time watching this movie. And a part of it, honestly, like I love going to the movies, and so the pandemic where like movie theaters were shut down, like that was like not hard for me because there were bigger things going on in the world. But coming back and like watching movies and experiencing them on like the screen again, it reminds me how much I love
sound
going to see movies, and so. Like, but part of me is like, did I like No Time to Die that much, or did I just was it buoyed by the fact that I loved being back in the theaters? And I think it's probably a little bit of both. But man,
also,
I want to see everything.
I don't
in theaters.
care.
Yeah, I had such a good time.
Yeah, I did too. Even though there were 9 trailers before this movie
started.
started.
And the movie's almost 3 hours long.
And the movie's almost 3 hours long.
We were there for like 3.5 hours.
We were there for so long that my validation ran out. I had to pay for parking. And then we're leaving the parking garage after I had to pay $10 to go past our validated like 4-hour time limit. And then the arm just opened without me having to put the ticket back in. I pay $10 for nothing.
No,
Mark.
no. You didn't pay $10 for nothing. They like they take pictures of your. Well, we'll never know.
I guess
but anyways, it's automated.
I paid $10 for nothing. All right, we were accompanied today by an ensemble at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix. Mark, let's get into the news.
Last week was the final Mr. Sakurai Presents for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, where Sora from the Kingdom Hearts franchise was revealed as the final fighter for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Wow.
Yeah, this was on like people's wish lists, I feel like, and I never really considered it a possibility.
Yeah, well, it is something that we. What do you mean? I'm pretty sure we've talked about the Sora as a potential Smash character.
Well, I guess I didn't think of it as a possibility.
You just don't think the conversations that we have on this show reflect reality. Take my opinion seriously.
I guess more what I'm saying is that I felt like the rights to Sora would like preclude it from being in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, because you not only have the Square Enix piece, but you have the Disney piece, and like trying to thread all of those rights, I thought would be prohibitive. But they figured it out.
They did. And it's cool to see Sora in Smash. Great to have one last presentation from Masahiro Sakurai to show us the character, show us all the moves in just excruciating detail. And one last like rad character introduction trailer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Do you think that this is the last, like, the Masahiro Sakurai will be involved with Smash Brothers? Do you think that this is like, because it definitely feels like the end of something.
Yeah. I mean, because there's no universe where this is the last Super Smash Brothers game that gets made, just because it's too big of a game for Nintendo at this point. But yeah, I could see this being the end of his tenure with them. I know, obviously, he is very involved with the games, but like, it's a whole team of people that make these things, right? Like, you can say it's his attention to detail that is like driving it, but like, I'm sure there are other people that are just as passionate about the details also working on these games.
Yeah, I mean, it has been so much of his life at this point.
Yeah,
it feels. I think it will feel strange to have a Smash Brothers game that he's not necessarily like involved with.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like. I don't know.
I still think that whatever the next Smash game has to be either a completely new roster or just like have a different angle on the fighting game team up, thing. Just because what there is now, there's no way to do that but bigger,
right?
Like we've reached that. This is ultimate. They called their shot. This is the last one that you can do this way.
But also for him, like, the perfect time to walk away.
Oh yeah,
because how do you top it, right?
Yeah, you don't.
Not his problem,
right? 100% not his problem. And finishing the development of the game with Sora, a character that, as you say, seemed like an impossibility, is poetic,
Yeah.
right? Like he found the way to do a significant thing and be like and end it that way. And I think there were only a handful of characters that would have been that. And I feel like Sora's one of them. Maybe Waluigi would be another one, or like, and this they would never do it, but like Master Chief, right? Like where it's like those are characters that are big enough or like meaningful enough to the Smash fan base that it would mean something for them to be actually be included. But I think Sora is actually the right choice.
Well, especially when we found out that, little preamble. So during the Wii U era for Smash 4, they ran a fan fighter poll where people could just like suggest fighters that they would want to see in the game. And at the time, we were told that Bayonetta was like the number one choice in Europe overall. It was like in the top 5. She was in the top 5 in the US and ranked highly worldwide. But they kind of like, that's why they chose Bayonetta. But they kind of couched it in the terms that like, this is the one that it's feasible for us to do at this moment.
Right.
Like the highest ranked character that's feasible for us to do. And now in this presentation, Sakurai revealed that Sora was the number one choice worldwide, but for like logistics and rights reasons, they weren't able to do it. And so Iwata and Sakurai decided to keep Sora being number one secret because they rightly thought that it would cause a lot of grief for everyone involved if they revealed that, but weren't able to follow through. So it's kind of neat that, like, after all this time, like, the negotiations to get Sora to this game must have been excruciating.
Yeah, well, and actually, let's pause there for a second because it's maybe worth, like, reviewing who the heck Sora is, right? Because a lot of these games have not been on modern Nintendo platforms. Sora is the hero of the Kingdom Hearts games, which are a Final Fantasy-esque Disney mashup game. There are some Final Fantasy characters that appear in them, but it's mostly these original characters, or Sora specifically, traveling through kingdoms that are made up of settings and characters from Disney films.
Right, so there's like an Alice in Wonderland land.
Or, Hercules, Toy Story, and he travels through those lands with Donald and Goofy, who are also both like Final Fantasy-esque warriors.
And Mickey's in the game.
And like, Mickey's in the game, too,
like, there's a lot tied up here.
Yeah. So, like, it is... I mean, first of all, I can't even really wrap my head around, like, why this game exists in the first place. Like, who at Disney was, like, talking to the dudes at Square Enix, and they were like, yeah, okay, we can do this. You can have our 3 most iconic characters. You can have Mickey Mouse. You can use Mickey Mouse however you want. And he's like, in a mysterious cloak. He's got a big sword. It's like, it's wild. So that is where Sora comes from. And part of why it is so complicated to get him in these games is that he, or at least the games that he comes from, are at least partially controlled by Disney.
Right. Who is very particular about like how characters are used,
yes,
and what they can and cannot do and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, like the negotiations must have been really time consuming.
Right.
But
and we see one of the consequences is that most of the Disney-ness of Sora has been like stripped out of him for his appearance in Smash.
Yeah, and even like Sora specifics, like Kirby, for example, like he doesn't get the same Keyblade that Sora has when he like absorbs Sora's ability, right? Like, and who knows? Like, it's conjecture that is like a stipulation of using Sora, but it kind of follows because that's not something that happens with any of the other characters when Kirby absorbs them, and so. Yeah, who knows exactly what like the rules are and what they could and could not do. But the fact that I think that they were able to make it happen at all, I think is really cool. And the fact that they were able to get that number 1 overall pick into the game as the final character feels very fitting.
The song "Simple and Clean," which I in my brain always autocorrects to "Gentle and Soft," which is the parody song from the documentary now that's like ripping off the Eagles documentary. You see this one?
No.
It's really good. It's so good. Documentary now is a treasure. But in any event, Simple and Clean is the song from one of these games that they didn't actually clear the rights to. It appears in the trailer, but it's not actually in the game itself, even with the added tracks from Kingdom Hearts appearing with downloading Sora.
Oh, interesting. Well, like we mentioned previously, Sora is released with this Final Smash update on Monday, October 18th. And I think I might get Fighter Pass 2.
Whoa.
And I think the reason I'm going to do it is because it feels, I have this feeling that like I want to own the complete Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Yeah.
Because it feels like the end of an era. And like you said, these characters are not going to be available in whatever the next Smash Brothers is. And so I kind of want to like have it all. It feels, I want the complete thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly fair. Will you? Obviously, it wouldn't make sense for you to go and buy all of the like Mii Fighter costumes as well. That's too much of the complete thing.
Yeah, I don't care about those.
But what about? Because there are a couple of them that are like full costumes that also come with extra music tracks,
Right, like Cuphead,
and like Sans from Undertale.
Yeah.
Those are the two that I bought.
Probably not
75 cents each.
I know, that's true. All right. Maybe.
All right.
Maybe I will. Well, I mean, speaking of the Mii Fighter costumes, also included in the update will be the ability to buy Doom's Doomslayer, sometimes called Doom Guy, as who to me I was like, oh, it's Master Chief. It wasn't Master Chief.
It was not Master Chief.
It was
It's
Doom
the
Guy.
Yeah, again, funny that they can't just say the name, that it has to be like Smash Cross Doom Guy or Doomslayer, whatever they said, because you can't just call it Doom because it's an M-rated game.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Also, Splatoon's Octoling and Judd have Mii
Just
Fighter
hats,
characters.
I think.
Yeah, it's like one. I think the Octoling one is a wig, and
Yeah.
then like Judd is a hat. But they're 75 cents each per usual.
Yeah, this is the sort of thinnest Mii Fighter costume
Yeah, it definitely feels like a
edition,
grab bag. It's not related to Kingdom Hearts or anything.
Right,
There's no
there's like,
Mickey ears.
I mean, can you imagine if they landed like a Mickey Mii Fighter costume? It'd be so cool.
That'd be so cool.
I would buy that.
Additionally, the Kingdom Hearts games are coming to Switch.
As cloud versions.
Yeah, that's right. So Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 Remix cloud version. Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue cloud version.
I love these
Kingdom
names.
Hearts 3 plus Remind cloud version will be coming in the future. No release date yet. My memory is that last year, series producer Tetsuya Nomura said Square Enix tried porting the games to Switch, but they found it technically challenging. And so
that's weird for like the original one, for the like, although I guess they are like HD versions of them that are like remade
so they
for
must
PS4
have.
or
So
something.
maybe they're right. So maybe in a similar way to how Dragon Quest 11S, they basically had to rebuild it in like a new version of Unreal Engine 4 in order to make it run on Switch. Maybe there was some limitation there, with like whatever engine the games were on originally. So I think it's like nice that they are coming to Switch.
Sort of bogus that they're cloud versions.
It's a little bit of a bummer that they are cloud versions. I haven't like fully played any of the cloud versions of anything that's been released. I played a little bit. I played the demo for Control, and it was fine, but it's hard for me to get like be super enthusiastic about like the cloud versions.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I will say about these games being the cloud versions is that they're not super like twitchy games, right? Like they're action, but it's not super precise action. You're never going to fail a boss encounter because you didn't hit attack quick enough or dodge out of the way at just the precise right moment. So like they might work just fine with whatever inherent lag comes with cloud versions. But my real question is, what do we think the pricing on these things is going to be?
Yeah, great question. Do you have a guess?
I think they're going to be too high. I think they're going to be like $30 each, or possibly even $40 each. You can buy the Kingdom Hearts all-in-one package, which has all of these games, including the third one for PS4, for $40.
I would be shocked if they are $30 each. If they're $30 each, I think that's like I would call that a like qualified good deal. I think they're going to be like, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be $60.
Wow.
Like I maybe 50. I don't think there's any way that these go below 50.
I mean, that's outrageous for like a suboptimal way to play the game.
Could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's tough. I mean, just knowing that it's Nintendo and that it's Square Enix. Yeah, I mean you're probably right. It's probably
Yeah, I mean,
probably gonna be
I don't
too
think Nintendo will be involved with these at all.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, I guess you're right that it would just be Square Enix publishing.
But no release date yet, so maybe I am completely wrong, and they do end up being more reasonable. Because you're right, especially the first two have been around forever, and Kingdom Hearts 3 has been out since like 2018. Is that when it came out? 2019? It's been a few years.
Yeah, I think maybe 2019. Yeah, it certainly has been a few years, and like I said, like the collection of all of them together is less than the price of a regular game on a PlayStation and Xbox at this point. So like, if you have the means to play it somewhere else, like maybe just do that.
Yeah,
it's probably going to be cheaper. Neither of us are Kingdom Hearts guys, generally speaking, but I gotta say, just like having Sora in the air right now, and also I felt it a little bit when Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, where I was like, do I want to mess around with this? And the answer is probably no, right? Like that I'll play it for like 20 minutes and be like, oh yeah, I remember why I didn't actually dig into this. But I find myself newly interested in this series.
Yeah, there's definitely like something fun about him being added to Smash.
Yeah,
that like makes me want to like re-examine the games for sure.
Yep.
The Smash presentation also revealed that Steve and Alex from Minecraft will be getting Amiibo. They're two separate figures releasing sometime in spring 2022.
Can you tell if they're being released exclusively as a 2-pack?
So in Japan, they are. They have not said yet, as far as I know, in North America or Europe what the deal is going to be. But in Japan, it is just a 2-pack.
Okay, so like the Toon Link and Toon Zelda amiibos from the Zelda Anniversary Collection.
And so I think that means, like, we know that Sephiroth is getting one, Pyra, Mithra, and Kazuya are getting amiibo figures. I think that just leaves Sora as the DLC fighter without an amiibo confirmed. And I was a little bit surprised that they didn't confirm one in the presentation. But if they're just now talking about Steve and Alex getting an amiibo, it's possible that in the future they will announce a Sora one. It just seems weird that would be if it ends up being the only one.
I mean, didn't Sakurai make like some sort of comment about it would be strange for Nintendo to put out a Sora amiibo?
Yes, he did. He did.
Which, like, yeah, we were talking about Disney being like, careful about what they let their characters do, but certainly about who they let manufacture physical merchandise with their characters on it. So, yeah, I would believe if that is one hurdle that they just can't clear.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right; it would be odd.
It would just be weird to have like the one out of all the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate characters.
Makes me glad I stopped collecting them, actually, because now the collection will never be complete.
I don't have a memory of us talking about these like rumors of a Grand Theft Auto game collection coming to Switch.
Yeah, we might've.
But it doesn't matter at this point whether we talked about it or not, because after weeks of leaks and data mining, Rockstar officially confirmed the Grand Theft Auto games are coming to Switch and other platforms sometime this year. It is a 3-game collection, Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy. It's the definitive edition, which will include Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas.
Right, and it's important to point out that we are just talking about these 3. It's not Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5 are not coming to Switch with any. That's not happening.
Right. The definitive edition will, quote, feature across-the-board upgrades, including graphical improvements and modern gameplay enhancements, but keep the classic look and feel of the originals.
Mark, does this do anything for you?
No, not really. I'm not really a Grand Theft Auto person. I think I played the most of Grand Theft Auto 3, and that was just like hanging out at my friend's house, seeing how many stars you could get. So yeah, I think it's cool that it's coming to Switch, but otherwise, it's not something I'm personally looking forward to.
Yeah. I hear that, and it is neat just to see it actually coming to Switch, especially knowing that like this Kingdom Hearts collection of games coming to Switch asterisk cloud version. This is just going to natively run on your Switch.
We should find out more soon because they're releasing sometime this year. Like, we don't know price, we don't know release date,
and we're almost to the end of the year now.
Yeah,
we're almost there.
When Nintendo revealed Nintendo 64 games coming to Nintendo Switch Online as part of the Plus Expansion Pass membership, there were concerns that players in Europe would only have the option of playing the slower 50 Hz European version of the games versus the faster 60 Hz NTSC versions available in other regions. But fear not, Nintendo of Europe tweeted that players in Europe will have access to both the 60 Hz English versions and that select games will also have the option of the 50 Hz European versions, so that way they're offered in multiple languages.
Okay, help me break it down for a second. So when we say 60 hertz, that means what exactly does that mean?
So I don't know.
Because it doesn't equal 60 frames per second, right? Because that's not actually frequently how the Nintendo 64 was able to run.
No, okay. Caveat that
we're freewheeling here.
Yes,
we're not experts in this.
Exactly.
We're trying to figure it out with the best.
But no, it does not relate to frames per second. It has something to do with the difference between the PAL video and television standard versus the NTSC standard, which is used in North America and Japan and probably other parts of the world. I do not know why it is the case, but it is the case that for whatever reason, because of the two different standards and the way that they work, that the NTSC games run faster than the PAL versions of the game. So literally the music, the games, everything literally run slower than they do in outside of Europe.
Is that why European TV shows always look a little bit different on American TVs?
I don't know. That could be.
You thought I was going to ask a stupid question.
No.
Yes, you did.
Never.
Yes, you did. You thought I was going to ask a stupid question.
I just never know if it's going to be a joke or not, so I have to prepare myself for both. We'll also learn more about the Animal Crossing New Horizons update that was teased in last month's Nintendo Direct this Friday, because an Animal Crossing Direct is happening Friday, October 15th. The 20-minute presentation starts at 7 a.m. Pacific time.
What can we infer from those little pieces of information? The presentation comes out on Friday morning, 20 minutes. Does that seem like a lot or not a lot?
I feel like
it feels like it's got to be substantial.
I feel like it's a lot because previously when there were the summer updates where they added swimming and stuff, that was pretty much just a tweet and a minute 30 long video.
Yeah, really short videos.
Yeah, so 20 minutes does make me think that it's fairly substantial, and maybe we'll get news about further updates as well. So maybe 10 minutes is talking about the update coming now. Then they talk about events that are happening in November and December, and then maybe a sneak peek at something that's coming a little bit later.
Yeah, that all tracks for me. I'm excited about this. I'm looking forward to having a reason to get back into my island. Sarah has been asking me about it. That she was like, "Hey, did they announce that stuff yet?" And I was like, "No, not till Friday." So yeah, I mean, I'm very much ready to go back to my island. Is called Valhalla. I'm very much excited to go back to Valhalla and see what's new there.
So finally, we're still waiting on more details about this new Plus Expansion Pass membership for Nintendo Switch Online.
Yes.
And in the Nintendo Direct,
which we should get before the end of the month.
That's
right?
what I'm saying. Yeah. So in the Nintendo Direct last month, Nintendo said we would learn specifics about it before it launches later in October. So there was the Sakurai Presents that that happened in October.
Check. Happened.
Yep. This week we're getting the Animal Crossing Nintendo Direct, which is almost also promised for October.
Yeah. So tentative. Check. We know when that's going to happen.
So there are precious few weeks left in October. Do you think next week is the week that we find out about the new expansion pass membership?
So what we're saying the week after? So not this week, next week, possibly even the Friday to be the same.
Yeah, that'd be the 22nd.
Yeah. The 22nd. I would say by the 22nd we will know when the Nintendo 64 games are coming, what it costs. And maybe that's it, right? That's the only.
I think that's really the outstanding pieces of it.
Oh, and when we can start to order those controllers.
The controllers, yeah. And
the Genesis. I don't mean to downplay the fact that there are Genesis games on this thing too. That is also cool. I want to know when I can get my hands on that Nintendo 64 controller.
100%.
Because it is something that, look, I didn't get a Switch OLED. right, edition, and I was bit by the bug sort of like later last week where I was like, I should try to get this thing, and of course I failed because they're sold out everywhere. But like I'm not gonna let that happen to me again. I'm gonna get this Nintendo 64
I think
controller.
I'm gonna get it too. Will I ever use it? Probably not.
Probably not.
But
look, are we also maybe planning on doing a Nintendo 64 month coming up? Like, yeah, maybe we are. Does it make the most sense for us to play Nintendo 64 games with Nintendo 64 controllers? Absolutely it does. All right, Mark, let's close out the news. Was not sure which version of the transition music I was going to be producing the show blind as I go. Okay, that's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. If you... No, I clicked away. Mark, I'm ruining the end of this show. We appreciate it when you do all those things. You can follow us on Facebook or Twitter. On Twitter, I am Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell. The show is at Nincard Society. On Facebook, it's just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying the next Smash Brothers game starts with Q*bert. And thank you for listening.
Imagine a podcast. Now, imagine a musical. Now, imagine the two of them made 1 million babies. Well, you don't have to imagine it, because it's real, and it has a name. 1 million musicals. Each month, we bring you a brand new, original podcast musical featuring talent from across Broadway, films, and TV. You'll hear tales of spooky ghosts, Wild West shootouts, adventures on the high seas, and much, much more. 1 million musicals. Only a few 100,000 to go.
A Campfire Media podcast.
Campfire.